Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Connor with Housebang.com. We have another real estate talk here today. I think this one is super interesting. It's about a bill, essentially, it's legislation that's being passed in San Jose, California, for tax breaks on large, like condos, I'd say high-rise residential condos. So not like high-rise, like office building. This is going to be like where people are living. Condos, kind of what you'd see in like a New York City condo or something like that. And this is pretty interesting. It's, of course, right, controversial. I think a lot of stuff is when it comes to tax breaks and everybody, because everybody, right, when you take a city, everybody has different preferences of where they think the money should be going, based on what they like, based on what maybe people they know like, they're like, and then also what they believe, right? There's a lot of beliefs in this too, though it's only, it's right that we have this. And so essentially, we're starting off there cutting taxes for 14, and this we're actually getting this from the San Jose Spotlight as well, so it's a local paper. So I appreciate the information, of course. And they're cutting taxes for at least 14 high-rise development projects. So it's about 4,000 condos. When I say homes, it'll be like condos downtown San Jose, and they're doing this because there's just simply really the way I've heard the way that the geography is that really the best way for them to build is up. And I was looking at statistics for San Jose in terms of housing. I think I saw the medium average like home value is like 1.5 million bucks in San Jose. So I mean, you definitely have an affordability issue, and a lot of times, right, city like legislation, they're looking at, okay, it's too expensive for people to live here. How do we make it less expensive? Well, we increase supply, therefore we need to give incentives to developers to build more condos and apartments. So this is exactly where that comes in. And it looks like, so in by the way, the cuts in terms of the taxes come in construction taxes and also park fees as well. So this is where kind of the park community, we'll talk about that in a bit, where the park community is kind of fighting back and how it affects green space. But so essentially the developers who build the first 2,000 condos get 100% cut in these construction costs and 50% reduction in the park fees. And then, so that's the first 2,000 of these high-rise condos. The next 2,000 get a slightly less of a cut, but it's still a decent cut. It's 50% cut in construction taxes and then 30% cut in park fees as well. So, and then high-rise discounts. So yeah, so in total, right, when we're looking at these statistics, between about these 4,000 homes, it'd be about $20 million of tax revenue that's not being in play because of these cuts. And what is, right, these park fees? It's money that essentially would be going to green space in the parks and public parks. So that's where we'll talk about that and how the park community is kind of disappointed. They're like, we want this money for our parks. We think parks are really important. Green space really enhances the character of San Jose. Please don't get rid of that for the apartment buildings for us. And it looks like, so park fees, this is interesting, since 2017, this is quoting that San Jose Spotlight, that downtown developers paid park fees of up to $14,600 per home built. So really per apartment. So you picture like a condo. I like to say condo, I think, or, because the apartment, usually I assume apartments with renting into condos is, I guess it would be apartments, and it's residential, so I'm sure they'll probably rent out some of these, and then the most likely they'll also sell them. So we could probably see a bit of both, depending on the development, right? So this is including buildings most likely that where they may sell the units as a condo, or maybe they'll just rent them out as an apartment. Either way, right? More fees means that in order to make more money and to recapture their costs, it gets more expensive. So the more the fees, the higher the rent, or the higher the purchase price. Usually, that tends to be the pattern for properties like this. And for the future 6,000, so we talked about the incentives up for that for the first 4,000. For 2,000 after that, up until 6,000, they'll still receive a 50% cut in construction taxes. Looks like that park fee goes away at that point. But up until 4,000 of these units, there's going to be a substantial amount of cuts in these park fees, essentially. And it's interesting. And the big thing is that, it's the Parks and Recreation Commission for San Jose. They're reaching out. They're like, okay, this is a lot of money that goes towards the maintenance of these parks. We want to protect the character of the city. We want green space for everybody. I think everybody likes good parks. And I think a lot of people can kind of be united on that, right? Parks are super important for a city. And then this is where we get this conflict too, where yes, parks and green space are fantastic for a city, but if we're doing this at sacrifice for housing supply as well, it can be challenging too, because the less housing supply, the more unaffordable it gets, right? And this is an incentive, the increased housing supply, therefore bringing, factoring in more affordability. Supply goes up, affordability gets a bit better. Will it really make that much of a difference 6 years? I don't know, right? I mean, it's questionable whether it would, but that's, the theory behind it is it should make a slight difference in terms of renting. Because think about this, if you have an apartment building and you're in downtown San Jose, you see all these new developments coming to you, it creates competition, therefore they're forced to compete, making it, start offering incentives to renters, maybe the monthly cost goes down. So they start competing, it gets a bit more affordable for people. And that tends to be the general pattern and the thought process behind that. Of course, nothing is guaranteed, but that's the theory behind it. And it's super, right? What we're getting this is the best way I can describe it. Like if we could break it down in like the bare bones structure, it's affordability versus green space / character. And that's kind of what we're running into, is that they want to increase housing supply, therefore to make it more affordable for people. And, people will want to move to San Jose. They have more options for housing. But then, a lot of people do not want to sacrifice, a lot of the money that'd be going to the parks, green space, and then make these sacrifices to the character of San Jose. And a great example is like Charleston, South Carolina. There's height restrictions on buildings in the downtown area to maintain a historical kind of aspect to it. And as a result, it's very historical. I mean, you don't see really like high-rise buildings, I'd say, but it's very expensive because since people can't build up, there's a very limited supply of housing, so it gets very expensive. And that's what we're running into. So let me know what you think in the comments, of course, right? Do you think these incentives to increase supply and, help mitigate housing costs are more beneficial than, right, the money going to these green spaces and parks? I think at the end of the day, the thing is you can't really have them both. And a lot of times when I've seen just in like a lot of like news articles and stuff is that it's hard. Everybody wants affordability, but you have to be willing to, take some steps and say, are we fine with San Jose being a very expensive place to live? Right? Are we fine with that if, we get our parks? And I think, depending on, the situation, they want to make it more affordable. I'd like to hear your thoughts as well, whether you think these benefits to create housing supply are more beneficial than what you'd see going to these parks, green space, and then other areas of the city, of course, city infrastructure. Go ahead and leave a comment below. I look forward to reading all of them. If you have any suggestions in relative to topics, I'll take a look as well. Thank you and have a great day.